Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our induction evening. We're delighted that we can actually get these messages across to you. We would obviously rather you were being in the building, but hopefully you'll have opportunity to do that either in the extended transition that Mrs. Milford's organising or at our summer school, which is going to be brilliant, and I'm sure you'll hear a bit more about that later. For those of you who I've not managed to talk to yet, so I'm Mrs. Moore, I'm a head teacher here at Sarum Academy, and we can't tell you how much we're looking forward to every one of your sons and daughters joining us in September. So there's lots of information tonight. The biggest news is that we're not going to run into the warm-up for the football, so you will have plenty of time to kind of digest a bit of information and then get ready for the big match as well. So tonight we've just got two main speakers. So Mrs. Milford, who lots of you already know, is our assistant head teacher and Senko. She's been out visiting lots of primary schools, and we've visited almost all primary schools now and had lots of transition visits into the academy. Also, there's Mr. Madison. So Mr. Madison is head of year 7, and he's going to start us off in a second to talk through some of the teaching and learning expectations and also what to look forward to in September. Any questions that you've got all the way through? So what I would like is I'd really like no questions to be left unanswered tonight. You can always get in touch with us if you think of other things, but if you want to pop some questions into the Q&A, we will be here to answer those at the end of this session. So it won't be too long in terms of time for you to listen tonight, and there will be a recording. So if there's anything you think, oh, I missed that bit, you'll be able to access the recording as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Madison, who's going to take us through on your screen. Now you should be able to see the year 7 team. So Mr. Madison is leading that team, and you should already know your sons and daughters tutor. So they'll be in either 7A, B, C, D or E. And you should know who that tutor is by now, and you should also know the house that your son and daughter is in, and we'll go through a little bit more information about that in a second. Mr. Madison, over to you.
Hello, good evening, welcome. Obviously I'd much prefer to see you in person, but of course we do things as we need to this evening. I'm going to run you through some of the key information about Sarum that you might want to know, about coming to Sarum Academy and the kind of day-to-day in Sarum Academy and how we do things. And hoping that if there are any questions that pop up, you can pop them in the Q&A facility and we can answer them at the end. So I think first and foremost, I'd like to talk about the importance of the tutor and the tutor system. We often kind of unofficially say that tutors are like the parents of your children when they're in the school. I think that's a really kind of powerful message, really important message. All of our tutors across the years have a great sense of investment in their tutor group, a great sense of ownership and belonging and family. And the tutor is that first port of call, really, for your children when they arrive. They are that friendly face that they will see every morning for the tutor sessions, that they'll see at the beginning of the day before their lessons to get themselves prepared for learning. They are there to help students with questions, queries. They are the first port of contact if there's anything that's not quite right, anything that they need help with, and they are there to kind of be the role model and shepherd effectively to their learning through the day and the week and the term. We have a great tutor team in year 7. We've got some new members of staff who are, have really experienced, have a real wide range of experience. We've got some members of staff that have been here a while, and I think that moving forward, we're going to have a great team. Moving to the day now, if we can have the next slide, please. Thank you. The timetable itself, it's something that is always a little bit of a question that gets asked whenever I go and visit primary schools. Is what's the timetable like? How do things work? Obviously, primary school children are used to having one teacher teach them everything, and probably the biggest change is having different subject specialists for different subjects, and it being on a timetable. And it can be quite overwhelming and daunting, but the good news is that if there's anything when your child gets their timetable that they're not sure about, they can always ask a member of staff for help. We will always help them with that timetable. In fact, what we're going to be working with is a visual timetable with pictures of their subject teachers and tutors so that they can become familiar with who it is that's teaching them, and where they need to be. I often say to children when moving around the school, you think you'll get lost, but actually very quickly you will find where you need to go. It's quite a simple layout in terms of the building itself. But in looking at the timetable, we have a 2-weekly timetable. That's so that you can experience, so students can experience all of the subjects that they can possibly think of across a 2-week period of time. Now we have a week 1 and we have a week 2. Now the teaching of the day, it happens after that tutor time in the morning. Tutor begins at about 8:30, and then of course the lessons begin shortly after that. Tutor time is looking at about 40 minutes, and in that tutor time students will be reading. They'll be doing things like Wellbeing Wednesday. They'll be doing all sorts of activities that are mapped out. There might be an assembly in there and a briefing with heads of year. Usually year 7 briefing and assembly is on a Monday. So we'll go through things like house points, theme of the week, various kind of important information, looking at how well the year group is performing. And then after that tutor time or assembly, students head into first lesson. They have first lesson and second lesson. It's then break time, and that lasts about 20 minutes. There's lesson 3 and 4, lunchtime after that, where you can have access to the canteen facilities. And there's one lesson at the end of the day, and the day finishes at 3 o'clock. So there are a real broad range of subjects that we do here, and it's kind of represented on the 2-week timetable. The next slide, please. Thank you. So there are lots of initiatives that we run at Sarum Academy, lots of really important kind of things that are embedded in our day-to-day learning and the things that we do, especially the tutor programme. And the English team are responsible for lots of this really important embedded literacy as well. So we do things like the Big Read. We're really big on books here. I think it's no secret that the more a child reads, the better their overall learning is, and the better their learning experience and their vocabulary and their imagination and all sorts of kind of creative elements are. So we're big on books. We have kind of themed kind of books that are specific to different year groups that tutor groups will read. We have a fantastic kind of library facility here as well that emphasise the importance of books. We also run big events such as the Big Write and the Big Spell. And the Big Write is a great opportunity for learners to kind of really talk about their passions. They can write kind of fiction, piece of fiction, or they can write about something that's important to them in their life. It isn't necessarily the content, it's about the delivery and the language that they use. And it's just getting young people kind of writing and being creative. We also have the Big Spell, which is a huge event. We kind of run that, and it's across the years, and it's kind of really important, and the children really enjoy that. There's a great sense of competition with the Big Spell as well. So there's lots for them to get involved in. It's very much embedded in the life and the kind of culture that we have at Sarum Academy. And that runs really from the roots of the tutor programs. The tutor program is a really important part of what we do. As I mentioned earlier, the tutor is a really important part of your children's time at school, and an important person. So I'm moving now on to something I'm quite passionate about, which is a system that we brought in very recently, which is class charts. Now, if you already have children at the school, you're probably already aware of this, but if not, it's a system that does so many wonderful things, both for parents, for teachers, and for students. It's a system that allows you to keep an eye on how well your child is doing in terms of progress. It's a system that allows students to submit things like homework, look at their homework calendar, look at their achievement points. Achievement points are big business at the Sarum Academy. Students love achievement points. They love earning achievement points during lesson time. There's a great sense of investment in achievement points. There's also a great sense of investment and emphasis on achievement points with members of staff who teach, and even those TAs that like to award achievement points for kind of excellent behaviour or performance in class. So there's a way to keep track of that. The children become incredibly competitive with that. They really love seeing how many house points they can rack up, and that does feed into the house system as well, which I'll mention shortly. There's a chance for teachers to arrange things like seating plans in class, to kind of be aware of any additional kind of learning support needs that need to be paid attention to, especially when it comes to things like seating in the classroom. So it's a really important facility for children to visually see where they are in a classroom, to know exactly how they're doing in terms of performance, them to know when their homework is due and what they've got to do as well. So they're able to submit homework on this particular facility as well. And also it's important for parents to kind of really be able to track those important kind of metrics of if homework was missed, or how well they're doing, if they've got star student, or if they've done something particularly well. We have a system at the moment as well where it's kind of developing the achievement system, where we're looking at ways of students achieving badges on class charts for notable performance and notable things like excellence or behaviour that's been fantastic. So it's a great system all round for everyone involved. And the wonderful thing about it, much like most modern technology worth its weight, it functions on smartphones, it functions on tablets, it functions on laptops. It's pretty versatile, and it generally just works, and that's the kind of thing that you want, really. But I think I've probably gone on about class charts a little bit too much, and let's hope you're still awake with me and we can move forward. So looking at the basic equipment that your child is going to need in terms of when they come to school prepared. Pencil case, you're going to need a black pen. That's an absolute given. You might need a green pen as well. You will definitely need a green pen. In fact, green pen is quite useful for various activities, especially when it comes to reviewing work. A pencil, a ruler, and a rubber, your standard kind of equipment. I know that this time of the year, a lot of students might be kind of gearing up to start preparing that stationery. A reading book, of course, reading books can be provided with the library that we have here. It's always welcome if they want to bring a reading book in from home, or if they just want to have a copy of the reading book that they're reading in their tutor group, that's great also. In maths, obviously, they will need a calculator. It won't always necessarily be a calculator-based maths lesson, but they will probably need one at some point for that. We might even use it in computing. So just making sure that they have a calculator is really handy. In terms of lockers, we have lockers here. The only thing a student will need to bring is a lock to make sure that the lockers can be secured, because of course we don't supply locks. But things can be secured in lockers that are available and open. So, for example, if they don't want to carry around their PE kit, but they want to keep it somewhere safe, there are lockers available for them to store that in around the building. There are some over near the science block, there are some in the English block. They're kind of dotted about the building, so they should be able to have access to plenty of lockers. Moving on as quickly as we can. Uniform is pretty straightforward. I find the uniform really interesting because I think that there's a great sense of identity with the pinstripe and the house colours that are incorporated in what they do, and particularly, which will be spoken about in a minute, with the PE kit as well. It's great to see the different colours and the house colours there. But quite simply, it's the blazer with the school logo, a white shirt, a tie with the appropriate house colour, and navy blue trousers or skirts, which can be pleated or straight. We do request black shoes. And it's really important that that is adhered to. So like uniform is something that we really kind of take a lot of pride in. The presentation of our students is really important, and the way that they look inside and outside the academy is really important. So I believe that normally we would have the retailers providing this sort of stuff at an open event, but I believe that you can order this stuff from them online at the moment. Moving on now to the PE kit, as I mentioned earlier. You have a PE polo top, which is actually really quite smart. It has some panels on it that relate to the house colour, and it has you have a mid-layer top which has the house name, and they have a navy tracksuit pant or navy leggings. Plain navy shorts are acceptable as well, and navy socks. Obviously, the running theme there is the navy colour, which kind of links to the main uniform being navy with the splash of the house colours in there as well. I think it looks really smart. I always like seeing Year 7 in particular coming in the morning when they have PE for their first lesson. They come in PE kit, which is allowed because they're going straight to do PE first lesson, and I always think it looks quite smart. Moving on to the house system, we have 4 houses at Soham Academy. We have Phillips, which is green, Arundel's, which is yellow, Clarendon, which is orange, and Montpesson, which is red. Members of staff get really competitive about this too, because we all belong to a house in the school, and they are fiercely loyal to their house. I find, you know, it gets quite competitive, and the children really do buy into that as well. There's obviously an element of sports day involved in that. At the end of the year, we're looking at our sports day happening in a couple of weeks. It's all linked through the uniform, as I mentioned, so it's really clear who's in what house. And as I think I mentioned about siblings earlier, if you have any children here already, it's very likely that the child coming up to year 7 will be in the same house. So there's a great sense of sibling belonging as well to the houses. There are all sorts of things that happen to do with the houses. They're not just the house system, they are a way for the children to kind of have a sense of belonging, to compete with each other in various events, sports day included. I believe that the celebration assembly has a big emphasis on at the end of the term, has a big emphasis on house system and who belongs to what houses perform well in terms of house points and achievement. It's been fantastic to talk. I'll be back in a second. I'm going to pass you over to Mrs. Milford, who is going to talk a little bit about the fantastic catering at Sarum Academy. So, Mrs. Milford, over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Miss Madison. Evening, everybody. I'm really fortunate. I get to talk about most staff and most students' favourite part of the day, which involves food, which is break time and lunchtime. Now, as you can see on the screen, we are incredibly fortunate at Sarum Academy. We have an award-winning chef, Jenny Brown, who is, you know, absolutely amazing in the food that she does. She provides food both at break time and at lunchtime, so your child is able to buy hot food both of those occasions. They can also bring packed lunch if they want to. That is absolutely fine. I'm going to show you an example of the menu in a second, but the food is of the highest quality. And if your child decides that they would like a hot dinner, but they have a dietary requirement, if you just let us know what that dietary requirement is, we can obviously make sure that that is catered for. Next slide, please, Mr. Jones. Thank you. So we have got on the screen, you can see an example of the menu. This is on a 3-week cycle. The staff feel very strongly about having roast one day, and of course there is fish and chip Friday. That always goes down very well with the students. There's a real mixture, vegetarian food, you know, if that's what your child would prefer. They also provide sort of sandwiches and rolls and fruit and salad and all of those things as well. So there is a really, really nice mixture. Now, at the bottom there, you can see the logo that says Parent Pay. We have a cashless system at Sarum Academy, and your child will be issued with a card. You need to top up their card from home via the Parent Pay website. And what happens is your child will come, they will purchase some food, they will swipe the card, a little bit like we would use kind of a credit card, and then that just gets taken from the account. If your child is free school meals, the money automatically gets put onto the card. So they would just queue in exactly the same way and just swipe their card in exactly the same way. Now, as parents, you can actually monitor what they're eating as well. So if you want to check how many vegetables and things they've had, absolutely have a little look at the Parent Pay account. I'm a parent. That would be important to me. Next slide, please. Perfect. So at Sarum Academy, we obviously believe in learning in the classroom, absolutely, but we also believe that there are so many learning opportunities outside of the classroom. So we have put together, and we continue to do so, a really extensive enrichment programme. The enrichments happen after school, so at the end of the day, normally between sort of 3 o'clock and 3:45, sometimes till 4 o'clock, but normally till about 3:45. On the screen, you can see there's lots of examples: coding club, sports clubs, trampolining, there's art clubs as well, there's food technology where they do cooking each week, and there is also, this is probably more so for the parents and the students, but there is also a homework club on every night. So if you feel that actually your child could do with some support, or it would really benefit from support in terms of home learning, obviously they can attend that home learning club. That's supervised by staff, and obviously they can have support with that. That is not a problem at all. Next slide, please. Excellent. So one of our favourite weeks in the year, obviously the year is all amazing, but one of our favourite weeks at the end of the summer term is our activities week. And this is a week where we are off timetable and we put a range of activities in place for the students. Some of the activities that we do, We've got the big walk, which is where the whole academy, we all wear our house colours that Mr. Madison just talked about, our T-shirts. We all leave the academy at different times. We all meet at Old Sarum. We all have lunch together. It's really, really lovely. And then we all walk back again. And that's a really nice kind of Sarum family event that we do. There's also days where your child can choose the activities that they want to do. Go Ape, Bristol Zoo, Longleat, New Forest Water Park. Lots and lots of different activities. We also have Tournaments Day, which is run as a house event, which is very, very good. And you can also see things on there in Year 8. They will do what we call the big camp, and Mr. Jones is responsible for that. He takes as many students as want to go in Year 8, and they camp out for a few nights, which is an absolutely valuable experience for all of the students at the academy. Next slide, please, Mr. Jones. Excellent. So you will have received a letter in your pack about the Year 7 trip to the Isle of Wight. I'm really fortunate. I've been on this trip. It is absolutely amazing. The trip itself is kind of 3 days, 2 nights. It involves such a wide variety of activities. I think there's 3 activities on each day, ranging from sailing to canoeing to crabbing, so many different things, windsurfing, raft building, as it says on the screen. But I think the really valuable thing about this trip is that it provides opportunities that young people may naturally not be exposed to. So, the letter was in the pack. I would strongly recommend, if your child wants to go, you return that letter as quickly as you can. I think the deposit was in there as well. But obviously, please, any questions, please let us know regarding that. But it is a very, very good trip. Thanks, Mr. Jones. You're right to move on. I'm now going to hand back over to Mr. Madison to talk about Voice in a Million.
Yes, another fantastic opportunity that we do as a school. It's described as the world's most spectacular school concert. It happens at the SSE Arena in Wembley, and that's usually in March. And basically, if you don't know what it is, it's about 5,000 to 6,000 students from different schools all go to the arena. And there are a range of soloists and choirs that kind of lead the procession, where basically students can join in this huge kind of like collection of voices, young voices. It's kind of headed by Mrs. Murphy Scott, who's in the music department, and I think it's a great experience, and it's something that students can do to kind of, if they're really into that sort of thing, if they're into choir, if they're into kind of singing, vocals. They basically contribute to things like harmonies, and they're led by the soloists on the stage choir. And parents as well do go along. They're seated on the floor level of the arena, whereas kind of the children are sectioned in either side of the arena as well, which creates this great kind of acoustics as well. So it's a great thing. If you're interested in that sort of thing, do feel free to ask a question about that. Speaking of questions as well, perfect segue. If you have any questions, please do use the question Q&A facility and pop them in that so that we can answer them right at the end. If we can move on, please, Mr. Jones. Thank you. So this is something I like to talk about. I requested to talk about this because it's really important, especially from the perspective as a pastoral leader. Support at Sarum Academy is vast. It's got depth. There's a lot that we do to support our learners. The 3 kind of key logos we have here, I'm just going to talk very briefly about what they mean to Sarum Academy, what they mean to our learners. So Thrive is a program to support the emotional well-being of our learners, and it's there to kind of be as an early intervention into emerging mental health issues. It kind of works on the principle of Thrive 5, which is eating well, getting enough sleep, physical exercise, and being kind to themselves and talking to friends. It's a big initiative at Sarum Academy, making sure that students are looking after their physical well-being, which then in hand takes care of their mental well-being. Speaking of support, we have the Bridge, which is a youth project that are based at Sarum Academy. They're there, they work in the Salisbury and South Yorkshire area, but they're based at Sarum Academy. And they're passionate about making a tangible difference to the lives of children at Sarum Academy. The Bridge offer kind of additional support, someone to speak to, making sure generally that initiative for looking after children's mental health and their well-being is in place. And as well as that, we have the ELSA support. So we have support which supports social and emotional learning. It's incredibly important. We have a hub in the school, specifically for children who might have additional learning support needs. They might need to do things a different way. They might need to kind of learn in a different way. They might have specific things that work for them or that they need to avoid. And having that hub and having that support there is a really important resource for our learners and our staff as well, to kind of make sure that the children that are here that might have something that just might help them learn in a certain way, it's in place for them. If we can please move on, I'll go on to the next section here. Now, this is the parent guide. This is a bit of a sneak preview, really, because this it's just about to be released. It's being firmed up, but this is the front cover of the parent guide for Sarum Academy. Lovely photo. I love that photo on that particular front cover. But it's basically covering everything you could possibly need. Any kind of things that basically get forgotten tonight that we cover, anything that you might kind of want to go back over. The parent guide will cover absolutely everything that you need to know. It's a really useful resource, and we really recommend that you use it or you refer to it if there's anything you're not quite sure about. Next, I'm going to pass back to Mrs. Milford for our virtual tennis session here. We're passing back where she's going to talk a little bit about transport.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much. Right, so in terms of transport, obviously lots of our students come from various different locations within the area. So what we do to support that is we have 2 minibuses which will collect and then drop off your child to and from the academy. Now, there was information about that in your pack, but if you have any questions about that, you're not sure about the route, really important that you get in touch with us, because those minibus spaces do get reserved quite quickly. The other mode of transport, if you live a little bit further out, is obviously the buses that Wiltshire provide. And again, there was information about that within the pack. Now, those particular buses we don't deal with directly. So if you would like to reserve a place on those buses, the really important thing to do is to fill in the form and submit that to Wiltshire Council, because then what they will do is they will send your child a bus pass, which your child needs to show each time they get onto the bus. Now, in terms of kind of safety, when the buses come onto site in the morning, they are in an area where there isn't a huge amount of cars, which is great. You can see on the diagram there, they kind of pull round, there's a railing. They'll be met by Sarum Academy staff. So when they arrive, they'll kind of depart their buses, be met by a member of staff, and then they will walk along the path up to the building. So there won't be any crossings of roads or anything during that time. At the end of the day, pretty much the reverse happens. They walk back down the path. There'll be 2 members of Sarum Academy staff there on bus duty. They will record to make sure that your son or daughter gets onto the bus. Then obviously they will supervise the departure of the buses. But what I would say is, if you're not sure about that or you haven't made a decision, it's really important that you get those forms in, or you contact the council or get in touch with us, because obviously, you know, like I said, they do fill up quite quickly. Next slide, please. Excellent. So the all-important first day, all of these other bits of information are really important, but this is, you know, the most important really, is the first day. So your son or daughter's first day will be Thursday, September the 2nd. Now, on that day, we deliberately have fewer year groups in the building, normally just 7 and 12, and that is so that they have the opportunity to familiarise themselves with the building. They'll practice fire drills, lots of different things, orientate themselves without it being a very busy building. So that is completely deliberate. Now, on that day, what we would like to happen is that your son or daughter arrives to the academy wearing their lovely brand new uniform. Come up the main path via the main reception for 8:20. There will be lots of staff there to meet them. Now, I know as parents, I've got a young daughter as well who will be starting secondary soon. I know obviously it's going to be quite a kind of a nerve-wracking time, but what we ask is that you can walk your child up the path. That's not a problem at all, but we do ask that you kind of leave them at the main door, say your goodbyes there, so that they can be greeted by us and come into the main building. They will then be directed to their tutor groups by lots of different staff. Will take them up there, get them settled. The school day on that first day will finish as normal. It will be 3 o'clock. So again, if you'd like to collect them, if you could just wait on the path, that would be excellent. And then we can obviously bring them out to meet you, and they will leave via the main reception. So where you drop them off, they will obviously leave that door as well at the end. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Excellent. So there's been lots of information tonight, but there are some really, really key pieces of information that is really important that we kind of get and that you give to us. The first one is obviously the pupil information booklet, which came out with the letter via the sort of the QR code and the Google form. If you haven't done that, please, could you do that, because that will give us lots of information so that we're fully prepared, ready for September. If there's some difficulty in accessing that, again, please just get in touch with us and we can give you a hand with that, and we can do the form with you. That's not a problem at all. I've already mentioned the buses. Please make sure that that's done. Be prepared. That's the best thing to do. And if there's anything regarding free school meals, again, please let us have all the information that we need so that we can be absolutely prepared, ready for September. So I'm now going to hand over to Mr. Jones, who I think, is there any questions, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, there is quite a few questions, but I'm first going to hand back to Mrs. Moore.
Thanks, Mr. Jones. Just a couple of things that I've picked up on as we've been going through. So the house system is also about our service to the community. And I just wanted you to be aware that every year students choose a charity to support for their house. And all of you out there who are in Phillips, that's my house and we're the best house. Mrs. Milford won't agree, she's Mompesson, but Phillips is mine. Mr. Madison mentioned equipment. When you buy that equipment, just for the maths department and the science department in particular, we'd really like you to buy the calculator that's on the equipment list. So if you've not got that yet, it's on the transition site on the website, and it's quite a long-winded Casio FX83 GT Plus. But if you can have a look on that, it's available on Amazon. Well, actually, some of the ways of using the calculator is really useful if they've all got the same one. So that would be really helpful. And then enrichment. So for our enrichment schedule, we will give that to students on the first day, and we'll start enrichment the Monday after. They don't need to book a slot. They just need to arrive and turn up, but that will start the Monday after. So hopefully we'll get that to you on the first day and students can start thinking about which enrichment sessions to join in. I am delighted we've got lots of questions. Mr. Jones is going to run the question and answer session. Do you want to kick off? You're on mute, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. So the first set of questions we got, and I'm going to go through to Mr. Madison to kick off with, is can jumpers with Sarum logos on be worn instead of blazers?
I believe that they can, yes. Yeah, they can. No, they have to be worn under the blazer, is that right, Mrs. Moore? Sorry, yeah. So, no, they have to be worn under the blazer. They cannot be worn instead of the blazer.
Okay, so that's a no in terms of jumpers with the logo on. I believe that's previous uniform that was there. So very much for our year sevens, we want them in their blazers in that context there. Next question, I'm going to go through to Mrs. Milford, if that's okay. And Mrs. Milford, can students attend homework club if they need to get a school bus?
In terms of homework club, normally finishes at 3:45, but what we would do is if there was a particular student, we would absolutely look to see what we could do to support that. It might be that we look at transport and we look to see, because we want all students to access absolutely everything they can. So if I don't know which particular parent that was, but if you wanted to get in touch with me, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you about that.
Super stuff. Thank you very much, Mrs. Milford. So the next question that we've got then is a question from Lee Horton, and the question, I'll send this one to Mrs. Moore, if that's okay. Is school uniform required for the summer school?
School uniform's not required for summer school, but I just want to share a couple of bits and pieces about summer school, actually. So we are delighted. We've got 110 of you who are joining us for summer school. So we're actually seeing it as a week-long induction. We have got a climbing wall booked. There's lots and lots of different activities, and the leadership team will be here all week so that we can all get to know you as well. So if you are one of those 110, we can't wait to see you for that week. If you're not and you want some extra transition, just get in touch with us. We will make sure that can happen.
Super stuff. Thank you, Mrs. Moore. So the next question, I think, is broadly similar to one we've had before. If a child stays after school, what happens to their return home on the minibus? I think on this instance here, Mrs. Milford has sort of alluded what would happen in terms of enrichment. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add, Mr. Madison. If a child needs to stay behind after school, what would happen with their transport?
No, as Mrs. Milford kind of covered, I think it's pretty clear. We look at like different situations. If it means that they can access some enrichment, we'll look to kind of make arrangements for that, really, on an individual basis.
Great stuff. So whilst you're there, Mr. Madison, can you please answer, I believe it's Mr. Walters who's asking, so where do we get the parent guide from?
Parent guide, it can be, you can probably get a physical copy of it, but you'll be able to access it on the website as well. So there'll be a digital PDF that you can download from Sarum Academy's homepage. The physical copy there is looking really nice, but of course, if you're like me and you like things digitally, you want to access it on everything, there is a section on our homepage where you'll be able to access a digital copy, download and have a look at.
Super stuff. I'm going to switch over to Mrs. Milford now, because the next question is back on the buses. Her subject of expertise here, it's like mastermind, we're kind of switching between them. So will the school bus run on the 2nd of September?
Yes, it absolutely will. Yeah, but it's that, obviously there'll be less students on there, but yes, 100% it will be running from that first day, which is why it's really important that you're ready and you've got your bus pass and you're absolutely good to go. Yeah.
Okay, we're on to Mrs. Moore's specialist subject, which is trips. And regarding trips, the question here from a parent, just anonymous, do we have to pay via instalment or can we pay in one go at the start?
It very much depends on the trip. We have always got ways of doing it by instalments if you would like to. If it's a smaller trip, lots of parents want to pay a one-off, but we can do either. And just so you know, the parent guide is sitting for the final proofread from me, so that will be coming out to everybody. We'll send it out by email as well next week.
Super stuff. Okay, we're going back to Mr. Madison now, and just another question from a parent. How do I know what house my child is in?
I believe that information should have been sent out already, but if you're not sure, you would like to know, please do get in contact. I'm always happy to provide that information. So just drop us a line, give us a ring, email us. I'm happy to talk through that and other things if needed. But that information should have been sent out, I believe.
Great stuff. Thank you, Mr. Madison. So another question here, and we're going to go to education matters now. So over to Mrs. Milford. Will they be placed in sets from starting, or will they remain in their tutor groups for all lessons?
Oh, I think Mrs. Moore wanted to answer that question. I can answer it, but I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Moore.
That's fine. I'll switch across to Mrs. Moore.
Just in case Mrs. Milford wasn't 100% sure. So students, once they join us, I see that transition as really important and they're settling into the academy. So all students will stay in their tutor group for all lessons for the first 2 weeks. They'll be doing a maths, very straightforward baseline assessment with us after they've settled in, and then they will go into sets for some subjects. So maths, science, languages, they'll be setted from about week 3. Most of the other subjects, they will stay in mixed ability groups.
Super stuff. Okay, that's absolutely cracking. So I'm just publishing it and typing this out as well, just for the record, for the record. There's a lovely question here. I'm going to go to Mr. Madison for this one here, which is, do you need any parent helpers for the Isle of Wight trip?
That's a great question. Yes, absolutely. If you're keen to do that, absolutely.
Great. I think that's a definite yes, please, as well. The more parents involved, the better. And whilst you're there, Mr. Madison, as well, a question from Caroline. Can I drop off the relevant paperwork required for Mrs. Milford to the school directly?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, anything you want to drop by, just bring it on and we'll make sure that it gets to the right person.
Super stuff. Okay, and we've got uniforms, so I'm going to go back to Mrs. Milford just so she doesn't feel lonely across there. And the question for Mrs. Milford is, where is the uniform available from?
So the uniform, I'm a bit upset it's not a bus question. The uniform can be purchased at School Kit, and they are online. There's also a shop in Totton, but you can definitely purchase it online. So it's School Kit for the main uniform, but you can also buy blazers from, I can't name supermarkets, but various chains of supermarkets, and you can then purchase the badge from us if you wanted to do that. That's not a problem at all. But the PE kit can be purchased from Trutex, and that's completely online. And again, if anybody needs any support with that, please just let us know, because we can help you with that.
Super stuff. Thank you very much, Mrs. Milford. And I'm just going to switch back to Mrs. Moore at this particular point. And it's a question from an anonymous person. Do you know if children eligible for free school meals are able to get any help with funding for uniform?
Yes, absolutely. Just to pick up on the PE kit first. So when you're ordering your PE kit from Trutex, you need to order through Trutex for the polo shirt and the mid-layer top, because they are branded with Sarum Academy. You can buy everything from Trutex if you want to, but we're really happy for navy shorts, socks and tracksuit bottoms or leggings to be bought wherever you want. Just unbranded navy stuff, that's absolutely fine. Regarding the question of free school meals, we've got a hardship fund, a pot of money set aside to support parents with uniform. All you need to do is email in. You can either email in to me, or you can email Miss Fox, who actually leads on pastoral care, and she will be able to look into that for you.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. So I'm just going to, somebody asked in terms of knowing their child's tutor, which I think Mr. Madison has gone through already. So hopefully that will come out in the packs through to you. So last question that looks like we've got at the moment. So I'm going to switch back to Mrs. Milford. And that is, do pupils or do students need to keep trainers at school all the time?
They don't need to keep trainers at school all the time. Some students choose to, because they like to play football during break time and lunch times, and school shoes, as we know, can be quite expensive if you have to replace them again and again because they've been scuffed. So obviously, you know, they're more than welcome to do that, but often they just take their PE kit home if that's what they feel is best. So that's a completely personal choice on that.
Super stuff. And just whilst we're on the trainers, what colour trainers do they need for PE? Are we worried?
No, as long as they're not too brightly coloured, it's absolutely fine.
Okay,
Mrs. Milford, is there something about the colour of the soles not marking the floor, or was that a long time ago?
Yeah, ideally soles that kind of aren't black, because they do mark the sports hall floor. Yeah, so, you know, most trainers don't tend to have that now.
Super stuff. We've got one more question here, basically asking, do jumpers have to have the logo? So just to reiterate, obviously every year 7 should be wearing a blazer. We had previously, we used to have jumpers, but we no longer accept those as school uniforms. So all year 7s must have a school blazer. Mrs. Moore's put her hand up there. And yes, Mrs. Moore, you may speak. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Just to clarify the PE kits, the uniform. So the uniform is the white shirt, tie and blazer. They can wear an academy jumper. If your child is a child, it's actually really nice and warm all the time in the academy. We spend a huge amount of heating in the winter months, so they don't necessarily need it. But if they want to wear a jumper, they may wear a jumper under the blazer, and that is always logoed. It must be logoed, because otherwise they don't blend in with the uniform at all. And just to pick up with the tutor groups and the house groups, I definitely know that they've landed with parents. So please do get in touch if you don't know that, because they have gone out.
Super stuff. Thank you, Mrs. Moore. So over to final questions so far that I can see for Mr. Madison. And the question is, how hard is it to get a locker, or do you have enough for everyone?
I think we've really struggled with students finding lockers. It's just a case of bringing a lock and staking your claim, really. There's never really been an issue where lockers have not been available for students that wanted them.
Super stuff. And back to Mrs. Milford, and just a final question on uniform as well, seems to be the hot topic this evening. Do you have any PE tops in school to try on to make sure we can get the right size? As somebody who's just ordered the wrong size of shoes, I can empathise strongly.
I can double check with the head of PE. I would imagine that we possibly do have some. Normally, obviously, in a non-COVID world, you'd be able to try them on. So I absolutely appreciate the difficulty. But if you want to get in touch with me, please do so, and we can arrange a time for you to come in and kind of put it up against and look at different sizes. That's not a problem at all.
Great stuff. And for Mr. Maddison, how many children roughly are in each tutor group?
That's a great question. This obviously varies depending on the year size. We have quite, quite a large year 7 cohort, but doing the numbers, it's around about the 27 to 29 mark in tutor groups currently.
Super stuff. That's great. So I'm now looking at the cookie jar, which tells me that all the questions have now dried up. And so if I can just hand across to Mrs. Moore just to say a goodbye.
Lovely. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Hopefully we've answered any of your questions. If you think of any other questions, my lights are going off in my office, so it's obviously time to go. Please do get in touch. We're always here. If you need something answering urgently, give us a call or drop us an email. And we really look forward to either seeing you during this last bit of transition, seeing you at summer school. So we're hoping on the last day of summer school to do kind of a family barbecue. So hopefully you will be able to join us for that. But otherwise, have a good rest of year 6 for all of your students. And we will see you very soon. Thanks very much for coming tonight. Take care.